having really strong KPIs from the start, knowing what you're going after from the beginning. Otherwise, you feel like you're always getting it.
All right, welcome back everybody. Rich Brubaker. I'm here with Karen here, who has started a couple of organizations here in Hong Kong. A hub platform for startup entrepreneurs, but also she started or was core to the women's ecosystem here. Fantastic conversation about her own journey as an entrepreneur, but then also aspiring and learnings from that process. So thank you very much, Karen. This has been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate your time. I know this is a busy city. You're a busy person. Do me a favor, give me a little bit about your background and what you do in Hong Kong.
Okay, so I'm French. I grew up in Tokyo, and I'm an engineer, studied computer science, and then moved back to Tokyo for JP Morgan to be an equity derivative trader. Okay. And then moved to Hong Kong, switched to web development, and build my own startup. Before you made the jump, do you spend time with the ecosystem at all, or was it a complete like, there's a whole different pool and I'm going to jump in? Like, what was your process to get into this? So basically, totally randomly, my co-founder and myself met a lot of entrepreneurs, and they were so passionate about what they do that we were like, okay, it seems they need a lot of help to recruit or to get new users, early adopters. How can we help them based on the passion that they have? Because when you hear an entrepreneur, you want to help. You're totally like into it. So that's really why we built Whub.
What are some things you've seen over the time since you started that? Because when you started, it was a very different time.
Oh yeah.
How have the needs changed? Was your first idea the right one?
So no, my first idea was definitely not the right one, and we iterated a lot, like every startup. You really need to be flexible. Yeah. But in terms of the ecosystem, so when we started, there might have been like maybe one event per week, less than 10 co-working spaces. We didn't really know who was doing what, which is really why we built Whub. We were not talking about fintech or edutech or anything. It was more like just about tech to start with, and people were saying that 3 years ago there was about 1,200 startups, and now on the platform we have like 1,700 startups, just on our own platform. So it means that it grew like so much over 3 years. It's just amazing.
How many of those startups are going to be foreign backed? How many of them are going to be local Hong Kong backed? And is there a difference between the two in terms of their own, like the access to resource or the challenges that they face? So when you're looking at the ecosystem, you feel like there is about 50% local and 50% foreigners. Okay. And I think we all face the same challenge. The difference is where you want to expand, whether you want to go to China because you have your own connections, or whether you want to go to Southeast Asia. Because at the end, Hong Kong is just a springboard for something else, and a good place to start, iterate, and test your product or service. Why not just go into Shanghai, Beijing, where they have a real deep? I agree. I think that if your end goal is really to target China, you need to go and start directly in China. But sometimes it's a matter also of connection and who you meet that will lead you to one place or another. So you're the founder of Women Who Code. Tell me a little bit about what that is and why you started that. Okay, so basically I switched from really financial background into web development. Yeah. And I attended, when I started, a lot of web development events, and there were like 50 guys and 2 women. So we were just really wondering where all the girls were, because they must be like more than that. So that's why we founded Women Who Code. So what is it like? How were you trying to promote, or what were you doing to maybe build the ecosystem? And what's been the output since? So basically for Women Who Code, it was really here in Hong Kong about bringing more women into web development, because it's a sector that is really booming, a lot of job opportunities, and a lot of women were considering it, and they wanted to have more information about it. So they came to us, and that's where they first started to code or to learn about new things. So that's really how it started. And then it was also going to universities and talking to students, because it needs to change from there as well. Sorry, it's a little bit younger than, say, what I would see in the press about women in tech and the challenges that career women face. Okay.
Yeah, because women in tech was more studied in Europe or in US, where you have a more mature ecosystem, but here tech was just starting, so it was a little bit different.
So, were there some things that you found maybe in the education system or in the culture or just in general that you felt were holding women back from getting into?
I think, at the end, we need to educate the parents.
Okay.
That actually it's good to have your daughter try to code. Maybe it's not for her, and it's totally fine with it, but just to try and, to think that it's not only for boys. I think that's the thing. Even when you see at high school, when you have a coding class and suddenly it's like 99% guys, I mean, that's really a problem for me.
Right.
I never felt any discrimination here in Hong Kong or in Asia. And the truth is that you have less women studying STEM class anyway.
Yes,
in general.
So
it's more about telling them that they can try and that it can also be for them. But for this, they need to have more role models.
What do you think is behind that? I mean, because in many ways, it's up to the individual to sign up for the classes in school, right? So why do you think that there's a disparity? Is it?
I think it's just this pressure that we all have, and without even knowing it, it's always there, and you feel like it's just not for you. Okay. I think that's one thing. It's how the media also advertise. When you have a woman, like raising 20 or 30 million for the startup, the title is like, oh, a woman in tech raised like money. It's not like, wow, there is a new startup with this amazing product that just got released. It's all about the fact that it's a woman, and that's for me is really an issue.
So, like at the tactic level, how were you trying to deliver that to the communities that you were trying to reach? Like, what was the things that worked really well?
I think going to talk to university works well. Even when you're talking to 50%, if only one of them, after that is writing to you saying, "Oh, this was great. I'm going to look into it. I was not sure I could try, but this is something that could change." You have the Women Foundation that is doing an amazing job. I mean, you have a lot of small communities that are really making a big impact. I just think it takes time, so it's difficult.
So when you got started, be it with Whub or with the network, did you have a plan for either one? What were the things that you started off doing, and how did you know when you needed to iterate?
So for Women Who Code, there was absolutely no plan. It was just like, there must be more women in tech or coding somewhere. Let's try to grab them thanks to Facebook. So this was one thing. For Whub, it was more like about really gathering a community and trying to showcase all this passion for entrepreneurs. And then we expanded with like job opportunities, with the talent database, with more events that we were organizing and more partnership. So it's always about finding new way to reach more people.
How do you do that? Like, because you mentioned Facebook, but in both cases, there are communities that are surrounding that for support. What were some things that you did that you found really worked to bring in community into your cause or onto your platforms?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't know, we organized a lot of events. We were very present also within the different communities here in Hong Kong, because the truth is that there were like small communities, but they were all very fragmented.
Yeah.
And for us, it was more like, okay, how we can bring it all together without doing what they were doing. So how did we do that? I cannot have a real answer, unfortunately. It's time.
Cards and
it's like, okay, for example, I'm a runner, and I think what makes a difference is just being very consistent.
Okay.
And I think it's exactly the same thing with it. It's like you're consistent week after week. You keep trying, you keep pushing, you keep making new connection, trying to bring very great content. You need to make a difference. Stop just the talking, but really do something that can help people in real. And I think that's really what make a difference, and really that why people came to us and how we grew also.
And are there certain things that you just have to remain consistent on all the time, and some things that you can
Yeah, and some things that you can pivot. I mean, for example, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, you need to try them and things. You cannot do it all. It's like, it's impossible. It's way too much work. So, you need to try them and see which one will work, which one won't work, and for like which purpose.
Right.
And then you can just push it. So definitely you're not doing the same thing again. It's all about, having really strong KPIs from the start, knowing what you're going after from the beginning. Otherwise, you feel like you're always getting it.
Like, if you were to talk about just Facebook, when you're developing your community, like, what were some of the things that you did early that you look back now like, oh wow, that was really not helpful? But then what are the things that you did that actually you started to learn? Like, what were the key lessons from there?
I think we tried a lot of different things, different type of inspiration, of talks, or of tagging, and some of them really didn't work. I think also in terms of blogging, so the fact that we switched at some point to Medium also, instead of having our own, really help also to promote. And I think it's really having a strong branding that people can recognize from start. And this needs to evolve. I mean, when I look at the first design of the website, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So, need to learn. What was the biggest, learn from failure. What was your failure that you think that you learned the most from?
I think sometimes you need to learn to say no. Because at the end of the day, it's just 24 hours a day. I have 2 kids, and you cannot say yes to every event, every coffee, every lunch, every new connection. You cannot do it. So you need to learn to say no. You need to learn to delegate and not to do everything by yourself. Because when you start, we were just my co-founder and I, so we were really doing everything, which was great because it's the best way to learn and to try to get it right. But then you grow, you have a team, so some things you need to let go, you need to trust people, they do it in a different way, and you need to say no.
It's like, what does balance mean to you?
The good thing I think about what I do now compared to trading is that I can do it from anywhere. So I just use my laptop and that's it. So I can go back home at 7, spend time with the kids, and then go back to work at 9. So this is like really, really great in terms of finding balance and finding the right time to work. So I think now with new technologies you can definitely find it.
For anyone like watching this, we have aspiring entrepreneurs, we have entrepreneurs, we have mid-career entrepreneurs who are trying to make their way through the weeds. What are like a few pieces of advice that you would give to someone about getting through it, about growing, about achieving, driving impact?
I think first is that, so when you're an entrepreneur, you always have a lot of people giving you advice, and at the end you need to make up your own mind. So I think that's one thing which is like very important. Always, listen, but at the end it's your decision and you have to be actually liable for it. So that's really one thing. Second thing is that whatever you have in mind, it's going to take more time. Whatever you have in mind. But it's good to have a target, So that's the second thing. And the third thing is that it's really a roller coaster. People say it all the time, I know, but it's true. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, it's amazing, things are going so well, and sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? It's never gonna work. So I think what really makes a difference is to be surrounded by the right people. It's a life-changing. My co-founder is also my best friend, and my team, it's people that we've met, we had relation with, and we really grow together. There is a huge trust. We're really going into the same direction, and that's what is the most important. It's really the people that surround you. When you're surrounded by amazing advisors or mentors or people that are really pushing you up, that makes a lot of a difference. I know it's what everybody says, but it's true that, and one thing also is that you cannot do it alone. It's so hard. Being able to find the right partner for this is really key.
You mentioned advisors, you mentioned getting good advice. Can you give me some insights into that? Because there's a lot of good advice that's actually not applicable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it all depends.
How do you find your mentors? How do you find your advisors? Or do you really just pick and choose?
It's really about your gut feeling. The one advisor that I have, the first day I met him, it's like we clicked so well. It was such a connection. He really saw exactly what I was going to do, the missions, like where we were going to be in 5 years, the whole plan I had in my head. He saw it right away. So we have a really like deep connection, and I don't know, it just works like super well.
And then how much information do you give him about the business so that he can make a good decision for you, or give you like, do you give him the financials, or do you?
Yeah, no, I can share everything. For this, I mean, you need to trust people, and also the thing is that when you're talking to an advisor or somebody, it's like, you know, they are not as emotional about your business than you are, because for you everything is like, you know, so personal, and they can, how do you say in English, when you step back, and you know, and it's good sometimes to speak to people that can step back from your business and say, okay, take a deep breath, look at the whole picture, where do you want to go, what do you want to do, and that's also what is important, because when you're working on it like all the time, sometimes, you know, you just need to breath a little bit.
Yeah. If your gut doesn't agree with what your advisor says,
I won't do it.
You won't do it?
No, because at the end, it's still my company, right? I mean, me and my co-founder, of course, but it's at the end we take the decision.
Yeah.
So advisors are there to advise; they are not there to run your company.
Yeah.
So at the end, as I was saying, it's your decision.
Any last words you want to give to our aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think being an entrepreneur is just really great, but I think also we need more people that join startups. I mean, not all of us have the right idea at the right time, and even though it's really exciting to build your own company, there are still a lot of companies that are recruiting and that need talent, and can still be part of an amazing adventure by also joining a startup. And I think that's also really important. As I was saying, it's all about the team.
Yeah.
Like me, myself alone, it would never been this. It's because of the people I'm surrounded with. So that's really important.
Anything you want to say differently to a woman entrepreneur or an aspiring woman entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or not. So I think that's really the first thing. It's like, just don't take it. Right now, it's good to be a woman because there is a lot of things to fight for diversity. So let's just embrace it and go for it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was fantastic.